War is hell, and World War II was inarguably one of the worst wars in history. But what if you were at the epicenter of that trauma in a way that allowed you to witness not one, but 2 atomic bomb detonations and survive? Well, today we're taking a deep dive into the experiences of the man who survived 2 atomic bombs. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other unlikely survival stories you'd like to hear about. Okay, hang on, because this one's gonna be the bomb. Born March 16, 1916, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a Japanese citizen just like millions of others. He was a normal man with a normal life trajectory ahead of him. But as you may have already guessed based on the title of the video, for Yamaguchi, normal wasn't in the cards. In the 1930s, he worked for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. He was trained as a draftsman designing oil tankers, and he lived and worked in the city of Nagasaki. Bright and capable, he was one of those employees who got to work early and really excelled at his job. He was also married to a woman named Hisako, and they lived a simple and quiet life. They didn't have any children yet, but they were planning to. Yamaguchi might have been a sweet and simple man on the surface, but he had another side to him. Japanese culture was very pro-war in the lead-up to World War II. They viewed their emperor, Hirohito, as a demigod, literally descended from deities. And when people think God is on their side, well, you know how it goes. Yamaguchi, however, was a dissenter. He didn't want Japan to become involved. In fact, he was so worried about the fallout from the war that he contemplated honor killing his family with sleeping pills if Japan lost, as he thought the Americans' revenge for his country's evil deeds would be impossible to survive. Thankfully, he was never forced to cross that dark line. In fact, he would be forced to do quite the opposite and spend his entire life fighting to keep himself and his family alive. Hey Weird Historians! While digging through our archives, we unearthed a whole bunch of videos that were just too damn controversial for YouTube's guidelines. So, let it be known that we're officially creating a Weird History membership tier. Want to know what happened immediately after JFK was shot? That'll be in there. So will our video about why DARE was an even bigger failure than you think. You'll also find our rundown on the 8 most important members of the 27 Club, the archaeological discovery that solved the Romanov mystery, and what life was like under Nazi occupation. Spoiler alert, it was really bad. For just $4.99 a month, you'll get access to all those members-only videos and a voice in any new, more mature, or uncensored content we produce for members in the future. And by becoming a member, you'll be helping the channel produce new and exciting videos, like Timeline, and whatever else we've got cooking up in the lab where these things are made. Just to be 100% clear, this is only a bonus tier for the videos we can't keep on the main channel. Our standard releases will still be free to all, week in, week out. But if you want to become an official member of the Weird History team, this is how to do it. Hope to see you there. In the summer of 1945, Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima for a 3-month-long business trip. On August 6th, he was preparing to leave the city with his colleagues, but while traveling to the train station, he realized he left his hanko behind at the office. A hanko, for the record, is basically a stamp used to identify one's work. Think of it like a wax seal and an ornate artist's signature morphed into one object, a small wooden block that you dip in ink and then press into schematics, drawings, or paperwork to signify your approval. Without it, he wouldn't be able to approve plans, which was a big part of his job. So he rushed back to the office, collected it, and then headed back to the docks where he was hoping to rejoin his co-workers. Only that was the morning that the Enola Gay dropped the first of the atomic bombs. Codenamed Little Boy, the bomb erupted only 2 miles away. Years later, Yamaguchi would recount this experience, saying that he was standing on the street looking up, and he could visibly see the bomber flying by, the bomb being dropped, and then 2 pilots parachuting out. He's often quoted as saying, "There was a great flash in the sky, and I was blown over." The explosion from the bomb was so powerful that it punctured his eardrums, blinded him temporarily, and left him with serious burns over the left side of his body. It also stunned him into a momentary paralysis. After some time, however, he regained consciousness and control over his body and attempted to free himself from the rubble he was encased in. Once he was clear, he crawled to a nearby shelter, rested, and then set out to find his colleagues. Shockingly, all 3 of them had survived the event. They banded together and attempted to find safe passage out of the city, but they were stuck. Ultimately, They spent the night in an air raid shelter and were able to travel home to Nagasaki the following afternoon. Bruised, wounded, and significantly burned, Yamaguchi received medical attention for his ailments, and then, like any sane person would do, he put on his suit and went to work the very next day. Yes, you heard that correctly. Yamaguchi went to work on August 9, 1945, the day after having been caught in the first atomic bomb explosion on Earth. Think about that the next time you call in sick with a cold. By 11 a.m. on August 9th, Yamaguchi had made it into his office, albeit heavily bandaged. He was discussing the events of the day before and how he had survived, which honestly must have been the most interesting water cooler talk of all time. And that's when the unthinkable happened. The American bomber Boxcar fulfilled its mission and dropped a second atomic bomb, codenamed Fat Man, on the city of Nagasaki. Once again, the explosion happened roughly 2 miles from where Yamaguchi was standing. Despite experiencing the aftershock, this time he was essentially unharmed. That being said, he wasn't exactly hunky-dory either. For starters, he found out that his ruined bandages were extremely difficult to remove from his body. He also contracted an extremely high fever and continuously vomited for the following week. So, it definitely could have been worse, but still wasn't a lot of fun. Yamaguchi would never regain the hearing in his left ear, and he would spend the next decade wrapped in bandages and tending to wounds that refused to heal. As incomprehensible as all he experienced is, however, life must go on. And that's exactly what happened for Yamaguchi. He continued. He soldiered on. During the Allied occupation of Japan, he sought out work, assisting in translation efforts initially, and then eventually being hired on officially as an interpreter for the Allied forces. And in the early 1950s, he and his wife, who also survived the Nagasaki bombing thankfully, had a son and 2 daughters. With a family to feed, he needed more stable employment, so he returned to work for Mitsubishi, once again designing oil tankers. And while he obviously struggled emotionally with everything that had happened, he did his best to move past it mentally. In 1957, the Japanese government would officially recognize the survivors of the bombings as hibakusha. For some, this title was a badge of honor. For others, a reminder of the constant grief of survivorship. Yamaguchi, however, was only designated as having been a survivor of the Nagasaki bombing. Just happy to be alive, he didn't object, at least not at first. But as Yamaguchi grew older, his opinions about the use of atomic weapons began to evolve, and he became a stalwart proponent of nuclear disarmament. In his 80s, he wrote a book about his experiences titled A Life Well Lived. He also wrote a book of poetry. Finally, in 2009, he applied for double recognition from the Japanese government as a survivor of both blasts. While it is believed that roughly 165 people survived both blasts, Yamaguchi is the only person ever awarded this honor. Of his unique status, he later said, "My double radiation exposure is now an official government record. I can tell the younger generation the horrifying story of the atomic bombings even after I die." In the last act of Yamaguchi's life, he began to become famous for his status as a double hibakusha. That fame would give him a platform to discuss his views about nuclear disarmament. It would also earn an invitation to appear in a documentary about the double hibakushas called Twice Survived: The Doubly Atomic Bombed of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And when the documentary was screened at the United Nations, Yamaguchi was allowed to make a plea for the elimination of nuclear weapons. In 2009, he met with director James Cameron and author Charles Pellegrino to discuss the idea of making a film about nuclear weapons and their impact on the world. After that meeting, Yamaguchi is quoted as having said, "I think it's Cameron's and Pellegrino's destiny to make a film about nuclear weapons." Pellegrino's book, Ghosts of Hiroshima, finally hit the stands in August of 2025. Cameron, for his part, immediately purchased the rights to make it a film and still plans to pursue the project, saying, "He was handing the baton of his personal story to us, so I have to do it. I can't turn away from it." Of course, Yamaguchi's fame also led to some awkward situations. The BBC, for example, featured him in its comedy program QI in 2010, referring to him as the unluckiest man in the world. During the episode, both Stephen Fry and the celebrity panelists made disparaging jokes about Yamaguchi and his struggle. As you might expect, the incident drew widespread criticism in Japan. Yamaguchi's daughter, Toshiko Yamasaki, even appeared on the national news saying, "I cannot forgive the atomic bomb experience being laughed at in Britain, which has nuclear weapons of its own. I think this shows the horror of the atomic bomb is not well enough understood in the world. I feel sad rather than angry." Tragically, Yamaguchi passed away from stomach cancer that year. He was 93 years old, and he died in his hometown, Nagasaki. In one of his final speeches, he said, "The reason that I hate the atomic bomb is because of what it does to the dignity of human beings. I can't understand why the world cannot understand the agony of the nuclear bombs. How can they keep developing these weapons? It's still a great question." Yamaguchi's son Katsutoshi passed away in 2005, and his wife, Hisako, followed in 2008. Throughout their lives, all three of Yamaguchi's children experienced traumatic and significant health issues from the radiation they were exposed to via the bombs. Nonetheless, they displayed the same bravery and fortitude that their father and mother did. Yamaguchi's familial struggle serves as an enduring testament to the strength of the human spirit. The fact that leukemia, cataracts, and a host of other radiation-related illnesses plagued him and his wife and children exists in relief of that. These are people who chose not to give in to their suffering. They chose to strive to overcome the wrongs that were done to them. They aspired to rise above the evils of war and shine a light on how we can all be better. So what do you think? And what are your feelings about nuclear disarmament? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from Weird History.